Darvish. Swinging and missing. It's a pitch to Goldschmidt. Swung on and missed. That's strikeout number 5 for you, Darvish.
Deep to right. First career walk-off home run for Gerrit Cole.
Tonight for the Cubs is the 30-year-old right-hander Jake Arrieta.
That's how much movement that he has on a 95-mile-an-hour sinker.
Jake Arrieta.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Jay Bruce has his first 2-homer game with the Tribe, and the Indians lead it 9-1 in the 7th.
That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. He is the Todd father.
Hey everyone, welcome to 1225 Live. My name is Alexa Datt. Some of the biggest moves of the offseason so far have us asking some big questions for 2018. In case you didn't notice, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton are both right fielders. So how are they both going to play right field for the Yankees? We have Aaron Boone's answer to that question a little bit later on in the show. Phil Rogers is going to join us to give his response. We also have some very interesting animals that players have been hanging out with this offseason. As we showed you earlier on in the offseason, Jason Kipnis was hanging out with an electric eel, while Anthony Rizzo one-upped him by hanging out with another deadly animal. We will share that with you. Plus, we have a pair of all-star toddlers to show you. We got toddlers who rake, and we're going to talk all about that today on 1225 Live. So much to get to today here on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start today's show, though, with some breaking news. John Morosi has been all over this. MLB Network's insider. Sources, the Astros and Pirates have reached an agreement on Gerrit Cole. This is going to be a huge addition for this Astros rotation. Justin Verlander, Dallas Keuchel, Lance McCullers, Charlie Morton. What an incredible 1, 2, 3, 4 punch, Danny. And I wanted to get your immediate reaction as you hear that Gerrit Cole is now heading out west.
All right, listen, this is so interesting because yesterday I was talking to Brian McTaggart, who covers the Astros for MLB.com, and we talked about what would the starting rotation look like if the season started today. And he listed all the regulars, and then we got to 4 and 5, and we said Brad Peacock and Colin McHugh. But owner Jim Crane had alluded to the fact that the Astros could be looking for another arm, didn't mean free agent. He talked about trading, and guess what? They just did it. So that means Gerrit Cole fills in that starting 5, and that means McHugh and Peacock are potentially moving to the bullpen. Really interesting moves. And again, the Astros are just going to be star-studded when it comes to those arms.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch Cole insert himself into this lineup. 12-12 this season with a 4.26 ERA, a strikeout-to-walk ratio of 196 to 55 in 203 innings across 33 starts this past season. Nothing to shake a stick at. Pretty durable there as a starter. And remember how the Astros used their starters as relievers this postseason. It worked out pretty well for them, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But really, a strong rotation, formidable rotation there. And Phil Rogers is going to join us in a little bit, Danny. I'm going to ask him, are the Astros now the best rotation in baseball?
Oh, man. Well, we just talked about this earlier this week. And before we get to all this, Lex, we have a lot to talk about. There's something that I want to bring up with you today. You were asking, what are we going to talk about off the top? Well, we have plenty to talk about. But there's something that was trending today. You know very, very well what this is. Stupid questions for Alexa.
Yeah.
So I found some for you. Before we get going with the serious, we've got to talk about this. This is our first one. Who the heck is Alexa? I seriously don't know. Lex? Who are you?
Zarar? Really? You don't know? You don't watch 1225 Live? What's going on, man?
Next
gotta
one.
sit down and have a conversation.
Why is vanilla ice cream white when vanilla extract is brown?
Because you're adding ice and milk. Come on, Ro, get with the program here, my man.
Oh, you're nailing these questions. Next, at the movie theater, which armrest is mine?
The one that has the other person's head on it is the one that is not yours. So don't think that you can move somebody's head off of an armrest. Put your arm there.
All right, last one. Why do we drive on our parkway and park on a driveway?
Because the English language is one of the most ridiculous languages, Rapunzel.
And a bonus one for you, Lex.
Yeah.
Why not? Who would win in a fight, you or Siri?
Put your dukes up, Siri. Let's go, man. I would knock her out. No offense, but I'd take Siri for sure.
Stupid questions for Alexa. We may have to make that a regular segment on this show now because you are clearly the superior Alexa to that other one that people are talking about on Twitter today.
Yeah, I almost responded today and said something, but I was like, I don't know. I'm going to let the rest of Twitter handle this because I bet they could do it better than I could. So very nicely done, Twitter, and thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
With all the fanfare surrounding the Yankees and Giancarlo Stanton. It's really easy to forget that both Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge are right fielders. How is this all going to work out? Well, Aaron Boone was joining SiriusXM's Fantasy Sports Radio, and he was asked about it. Here's his answer.
Obviously, both Judge and Stanton will get some more games at the DH spot when they're kind of rotating through that right field. We'll obviously have to, at some point, probably move one of them over to left field on occasion, against a lefty where we want to get them both in there, maybe where we want to give Gary Sanchez a day to DH. So, and that's what spring training will be for, is just seeing the comfort level. It'll be a collaborative effort where what's the best fit, who's the most comfortable moving over and changing positions every now and then, because the one thing we don't want to disrupt is what they bring to the table, obviously offensively.
Okay, so Danny, one of the most interesting parts about that sound for me is the fact that one of those guys could potentially move over to left for a little bit, not the entire season, facing lefties, things like that, but who decides that? And how is that decided? They're going to, I guess, look at it during spring training. But, I mean, the guys are going to look at each other like, you, me, you, me, you, me. And these guys who just became best friends, as we saw from Aaron Judge's tweet,
right,
there could be an interesting decision that has to be made there. So that'll all play out as the season continues. But I am very curious to see how that is decided. All right, so no doubt these two are going to put up huge numbers in the Bronx. But is there another duo in baseball, Danny, do you believe, that could rival these guys as the best duo in baseball?
I do believe there is. Listen, if you combine Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, they're about 13 feet tall put together. That's a lot of muscle, arm span, and strength.
Yeah.
But what Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve lack in that tall and height, they make up for in ways that those two guys cannot. Let me tell you, Jose Altuve, I could bore you with the stats, right? He's now led the AL in hits 4 straight seasons, but he's redefined the laws of average in baseball. He's so aggressive that he leads the league in most swings at first pitches. Why does this matter? 62 of his hits came off first pitches. What's more is no one's recorded more hits on first pitches thrown outside the strike zone than Altuve. He leaves pitchers dumbfounded. That's not something that Judge and Stanton, I believe, can do. Not to mention the 32 stolen bags once he gets on base, and the 112 times he's scored 24 home runs. Thanks to Matt Kelly for those numbers. And his counterpart, Carlos Correa, don't forget, before he got hurt in July, he was the front runner for AL MVP. He came back in September to bat almost 300 with an OPS around 850, and he's projected to be in that 4-hole of the lineup. So listen, he's leading in all these categories. He missed a ton of time, but it didn't matter because he still was clutch in the postseason. And what's more clutch than everything he did after winning the World Series, he got down on a knee and proposed to his girlfriend. Calm, cool, collected. This duo combined can rival the height and the muscle and the arm span and all of that, because they have those intangibles and they have all the little things that Judge and Stanton just can't have.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They definitely dominate the Google searches, that's for sure. As
that's
you were
right.
mentioning, trying to do some research for Carlos Correa. Everything that comes up a proposal, right, when he did that after the World Series. So I like that pick. It's hard to pick against the defending champs, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
I think there are a couple of guys who could pair up on the Nationals and rival what's going on up there in the Bronx. You can pick from several of those names: Ryan Zimmerman, Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon, Daniel Murphy. But instead, I'm going to go with a pair of guys on the Rockies. And I feel like this is going to be really interesting to watch Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado this season. These two were absolutely on fire last year. I think basically they split the votes for NL MVP. I know a lot of people were talking to Joey Votto. I get it. But these two were absolutely outstanding in 2017. They combined for 74 home runs. They were in a competitive NL West. Both players hit over 300 in the regular season. Blackmon finished second in the league with a .331 average. That's 47 points higher than Judge. Blackmon and Arenado both played 159 regular season games, so there's no issues on their health or longevity. This race is on. Arenado and Blackmon, they will take Judge and Stanton any day of the week. Let's go.
Okay, I see you. I think that's the most exciting part, is that teams and people are overlooking all these other guys.
Yeah.
And they're going to come in and surge and be like, you doubted us? us, and now we're proving you wrong. So I love this. And that leads us to our question of the day, because we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what other tandem in baseball can rival Judge and Stanton, because there are a lot. Every team has this duo that can compete with these guys in special and other ways. So if you're not on Facebook, head over now. Let us know if there's a duo on another team that can compete with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge. We're going to read those at the end of the show.
One duo we didn't mention that I feel like actually could compete, maybe right now, not is the exact time, but maybe in like 15, 20 years. We got a couple of all-star toddlers who have absolutely stole our hearts here at MLB.com. So we want to go ahead and show everyone these guys because they are toddlers who Rick, right, Danny?
Absolutely. So, of course, a friend of the show, Todd Frazier. We're going to start with his daughter, Kylie, who proves that if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Swing.
Oh.
Almost caught. Ready? B. Ready? Swing.
I love that. Running around in their diapers, swinging bats. What's better than that? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. These kids have everything in them.
All right, then former big leaguer Cody Willing's son, Asher, is also hard at work, and this is literally the definition of toddlers who rake. Take a look. He's got a nice swing.
Back up. Right there. Oh, jeez. Nice one. Good job.
Wait, let's give the kid the MVP already. He's earned it clearly. That swing is magical.
Cuter than Cupid. And also, if you're the cameraman, you got to watch out every single time that kid picks up a bat, because that was a dart right there at the cameraman, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, look at this video again. The kid winds
toes.
up. He knows he's good. That's the thing. He knows he's got his flat bill on. He's ready to go. Put this kid in, coach.
I love it. Yeah, so maybe he can take a shot at rivaling Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton there when he gets into the big leagues one day.
Give him what, 18 years, 15 years, and I think we're going to see this kid in a uniform somewhere in a TV screen near you.
Yeah, hold on to that video. Draft day. It'll be all over Twitter for sure. All right, Danny, get in your answers, right, for people who want to name their duos, because, by the way, if no one names anyone on the Nationals, I'm going to be very upset. I decided not to go with Nationals this time around, only because I don't want to be a homer every time on the show. Might as well just have the show be broadcast on Nationals.com with the amount of times I pick the Nationals. But I feel like
it's fair.
Yeah, it's fair, right? And they have some dominant guys there. So
absolutely. We're getting answers. You guys on Facebook are rock stars. Keep coming through. I'm seeing a ton of things come in. Other duo that can compete with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, let us know. We'll read those soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Danny.
Yep.
We're welcoming Phil Rogers right now to the show. And Phil, since we are talking about dynamic duos, is there a dynamic duo out there that you believe can rival Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge up there in the Bronx?
Well, that's an awfully dynamic one. In Chicago, I see a lot of that Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo combination, and I think in recent years, year in, year out, Rizzo's consistency, Bryant, since he got to the big leagues, I think that's probably as good as there has been. Different kind of hitters, not the 500-foot home run guys necessarily, although Bryant can certainly hit them a long way. But just the consistency, I think Bryant and Rizzo would be on anyone's short list.
Yep, the final out of the World Series was that Bryant-Rizzo combination, so that definitely rings true for a lot of Cubs fans. Baseball fans, too, I'm sure we'll see that on the suggestion list. Phil, let's get to some breaking news here on the show. John Morosi recently tweeted out, sources are saying the Astros and Pirates have reached an agreement on a Gerrit Cole trade. Cole went 12-12 with a 4.26 ERA in 33 starts for the Pirates in 2017. Give me your immediate reaction to this trade.
This is huge, and I think it's awesome for Jim Crane, stepping up and providing sort of the momentum for his front office, Jeff Luhnow and those guys, to go improve a team that just won the World Series. The starting pitching depth they have is unbelievable. You've got Lance McCullers would now become a number 4 starter. You've got Charlie Morton, Brad Peacock, Joe Musgrove, who at times last year looked like the kind of a guy you would want to pencil into a rotation. Colin McHugh was injured and not available for much of last year, but a guy that's been very effective in the past. I think the Astros, who may already have been the number one power ranked team coming into 2018, have just separated themselves from the pack if this deal does go down.
So would you say that the Astros are the best rotation in baseball?
I would definitely say that. I've been thinking if the Cubs were able to add Darvish, if they somehow wound up re-signing Arrieta, traded for a big front end guy, Michael Fulmer and Chris Archer are the two usual suspects. If the Cubs had added somebody like that, I would have argued that the Cubs were the number one rotation. But now when you look at the way Justin Verlander pitched in 2017, Gerrit Cole 2017 wasn't his best year, but this is a stud hoss. So yeah, I would definitely say on top of that crazy lineup, the Astros have made themselves the best rotation in baseball. It's definitely the deepest. And you look at a 1-2-3 with Verlander, Keuchel, Cole, that it might be the most front loaded as well.
Well, and Dallas Keuchel becomes a free agent after the 2018 season, so this gives them some extra cushion. Dallas Keuchel leaves, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But for, yes, just this season alone, definitely the deepest rotation for sure. Let's talk about the Yankees, who were rumored to be in on this trade. New York Yankees manager Aaron Boone said something very interesting this week when talking about Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, saying that they obviously both can't play right field at the exact same time, saying one of them would maybe have to move over to left to get Gary Sanchez there in the lineup as the DH. What did you make of those comments?
Well, I mean, it is sort of an obvious fact. You can't have two right fielders, and they've also talked about keeping the DH spot open because, they have Brett Gardner in left field who's been very effective. They still have to find a way to get at bats for Jacoby Ellsbury. So they are a bit of a crowded house when you look at their lineup. It certainly helps that they were able to offload Chase Headley. But, it's talk about a good problem to have that you've got to move one of those two guys. Judge looked very good in right field last year, but one of the reasons Giancarlo Stanton is so effective is he's also a two-way right fielder. So, they got – it's sort of the best problem to have is having too many center fielders. You take a second good center fielder, you move him to the corner spot, you've really improved your outfield. But this is similar that you can have, two really good defensive corner outfielders, or use the DH spot to get them in and out of the lineup so they don't get worn out over the season and they're ready to go in September and October.
Who would you put over and left in a situation where it's necessary, Judge or Stanton?
I think I would be more likely to move Stanton because Judge is, your homegrown guy. He got the feel for right field last year. I kind of think the guy coming in is theoretically more flexible. So I would more than likely keep Judge in right field. It seemed like such a great fit last year. I would be a little bit hesitant to mess with that.
So the AL rookie stays put and the NL MVP take a hike, huh?
Well, not exactly take a hike. And the NL MVP is getting exactly what he wanted. And, he's going to be on cloud nine next year, whether he's playing left field or right field. And, Judge, I'm sure, would be fine going to left field too. I think you could flip a coin every day, but you don't want to do that. You want to have some consistency. Brett Gardner, well, what do you do with him? I mean, they have been talking to teams about trades. He's still a very good on-base guy, and he's very good defensively in left field. So, you do sort of have to squeeze guys in to make it work, and you may wind up having a lot of DH at bats for Stanton or Judge.
Yeah, a surplus of outfielders is never a bad thing because we know injuries creep up throughout the season, but also they could maybe use one of those guys to acquire a third baseman, which is one of their needs as well. Let's talk about the Yankees in terms of what they lost, which was Starlin Castro in that Giancarlo Stanton trade. Starlin Castro is down now in Miami, and he's saying that he doesn't want to be there. He wants out. This is the latest from Ken Rosenthal, who tweeted this. He doesn't want to be part of another rebuilding process the way he was with the Cubs. What do you make of these comments?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You can see where he's coming from. I mean, and he was also, in a way, part of a rebuilding process with the Yankees. I mean, they getting back to have the season they had last year involved some, some bumps along the road. And, he was watching Ben Zobrist, who essentially took his spot with the Cubs, celebrate a World Series while he was out of the playoffs that season. I can understand it. And, he's in the peak of his career, and, really, who's going to want to play in Miami? The one thing I really don't like about this is if you look at the guys, I would say Castro has much less trade value than a Christian Yelich or a Real Muto. But if you look at, put him in that mix and you look at whoever they're going to trade for, if it's young major leaguers, what's their attitude going to be when they arrive in Miami? If you're trading for AA, AAA guys that have a shot to earn their way in the major leagues, you could see they would be excited. A deal with the White Sox, for instance, for Christian Yelich that would be just loaded with AAA, almost to the big league type prospects. But if you look across town in Chicago, Christian Yelich, if it was the Cubs, and I think the Cubs are in good position to trade for him, all things being equal, because they have young major leaguers. But if, Miami is Albert Almora's home. But if Albert Almora was in a Christian Yelich trade, how's he going to look at being part of this Marlins team that seems to have created its own stigma, leaving a team that expects to compete for the World Series. So, I think it's kind of the landscape is going to be so screwed up next spring. You just wonder the young players playing for the Marlins, they got to be playing for the opportunity to get to the big leagues. If they're already big leaguers, I think they're going to be looking around and kind of have to be sold on what the Marlins are doing, that they can rebound in 2 or 3 or 4 years and be competitive again.
All right, Phyllis, you mentioned the Cubs. Let's talk a little bit about the Cubs. They've added some arms this offseason, but it doesn't seem like they're done yet. They obviously want to add another member to that rotation. Who do you believe is the best either free agent or option for them to trade in order to bolster that rotation?
Well, I think all things being equal, they've always liked to write a check rather than give up talent. They really like Yu Darvish. They liked him when he was in Japan before the Rangers landed him in that posting. The Cubs finished second on him in that posting. And while the World Series starts against the Astros, or they're on his record, the Cubs just watched him absolutely blow them away for 6 1/3 innings in Game 3 of the championship series. Probably as good of a game as Darvish has pitched in North America. I mean, his fastball was 95, 96. He was spotting all of his breaking pitches. I think 4 other pitches. I think he threw 5 pitches that night, and he was throwing them all for strikes. The Cubs are very high on Yu Darvish. So I think while Darvish is on the market, I think he's probably the most likely option for them. And then Arrieta, I still see as a long shot. I think whether it's Minnesota or Milwaukee or Philadelphia or Texas, somebody is going to step up that's really motivated to add an arm like like Arrieta, and give him the extra year or maybe even 2 more years than the Cubs are willing to do. And I think he would wind up there instead. I think he's looking to maximize the contract. So coming back to the Cubs for shorter terms, not very attractive to him. And then the other option is they pull something off that nobody sees coming. I was writing a column on this, working on it this morning, things they might do. And, we heard at the winter meetings that they were talking to the Padres about Luis Perdomo and, I'm going to mispronounce this name terribly, but Dinelson Lamont, young power arms. So they are exploring all of those. What about a Sean Manaea with the Oakland A's, or, another guy that's got a year or two in the big leagues and has shown what he can do? I think there's a better chance that they would go out and make a trade for a guy like that than they would probably actually pull off one of the ones we've been talking about for years, Chris Archer, and then over the last year since the trade deadline, Michael Fulmer. Those have been sort of the usual suspects, but the asking price for those guys is so high. I'm interested to see if Mike Montgomery is still on the Cubs roster when they go to spring training. He's the fifth starter now and expressed his desire, not overly strongly. There were no ultimatums made, but he said, look, I want to be a starting pitcher rather than the swing man who goes back and forth. Last year, he finished 11 games and started 14. He doesn't want to have another year like that. And it's possible if the Cubs made a trade for pitching, one way that they could accommodate that trade is by sending Mike Montgomery, who has only 2 years in the big league, sending him back to the other team. So they'd be getting pitching to go along with, while giving up pitching.
Interesting. All right, let's talk about this Cubs bullpen. Aroldis Chapman, their closer 2 seasons ago. Last year it was Wade Davis. Now the obvious choice seems to be Brandon Morrow. How do you feel like he fits into that role?
Well, he's a little bit untested. I mean, he's a guy that early in his career, power arm, everybody wanted him, saw him as a starter, a guy that could be a high strikeout guy as a starting pitcher. Never quite hit that ceiling. And we saw him last year with the Dodgers really explode his value as a reliever when the velocity was up and he was showed the ability to throw strikes. He worked back-to-back days a lot. He really sort of checked off all the things that you would want a starting pitcher to do. I believe he pitched in 6 of the 7 games in the World Series. And while there are days off there, to be able to go back-to-back and have good stuff back-to-back days, that's what teams are looking for when they sort of try to evaluate setup guys. Could they be closers? So I think the Cubs feel like if the right deal doesn't fall their way, they can go into next season and go to spring training, give Morrow the chance to close. I think they still really love Carl Edwards Jr., and they should. I mean, his stuff is dynamic. He lost track of the strike zone late last year, and it became a big problem for them in the postseason. Had he had a good postseason, I think they might have just penciled him in as the closer, and they are not totally going to flush it just because he had a bad postseason. So, I think Carl Edwards Jr. is a guy that internally causes them to argue against going out and making a big expenditure, whether it was to re-sign Wade Davis, now to go get a Greg Holland. I think it's possible they'll bring in relief arms still between now and spring training, but I don't think they feel like they really need to force the issue in terms of a closer. If, they've been successful in trading for the arms they need at midseason. 2 years ago, it was Aroldis Chapman. Last year, it was Jose Quintana. So I think they feel pretty confident that they can sort of use the first half of the season to evaluate where they are and adjust on the fly.
Hey, Phil, while we're sitting here talking about all of these different teams, this question kind of just came to my head. A lot of people are talking about Billy Epler and Brian Cashman and how the Yankees and Angels have done such a great job this offseason. But with this new news with the Astros acquiring Gerrit Cole, who do you believe up till this point out of the Astros, Yankees, and Angels has won the offseason?
Well, I think to add Giancarlo Stanton, it happened early, and we've got the recency bias where we want to look at the moves that have just been made. But, for a team that already had Aaron Judge to add Giancarlo Stanton, I would say the Yankees have won the offseason. I mean, they, getting CC Sabathia back wasn't a big, exciting move necessarily, but as well as he pitched last year, it was a significant move. So I would have to say that, just the impact of Stanton, I would have to give it to them. But I do love what the Angels have done, and it's going to take a little bit to evaluate Gerrit Cole. The fact they only have him for 2 years. One thing I do love about the Astros acquisition of Gerrit Cole, if this does come through today, it shows me that they have this window to break out. They're one of the power teams in Major League Baseball, but the Dodgers are one, the Cubs are one, the Nationals are one. But I think that really shows the thirst to break past that and to be the super team. And while they have Springer and Altuve and Correa and that great lineup, they are really, really looking to maximize that. And, to add Cole when you already had Keuchel, Verlander for next year, and to say we're going to increase our chances of getting back and defending the World Series championship, that's a level of ambition I don't think the Cubs quite had when they came out of winning in 2016. They had largely a status quo type honeymoon celebration. And I think to go back and sort of double down with this Gerrit Cole move, that's huge too. But ultimately, back to my original answer, I think Stanton is the biggest move.
Yeah, absolutely. But, the Astros are long playing this one, right? This is about creating a dynasty. They don't want to be a one-hit wonder, and that's exactly what this move is, thinking for the future as well as the short term. All right, Phil, we have a fan question for you from Dani as she joins us here in our 3-box.
Hey, Phil, lots going on today.
Yeah, it is a busy, fun morning finally. Somebody said to me yesterday that, are you ready? Asked me, are you ready for the tsunami? I'm like, the tsunami is like the tsunami of moves that are coming up in the next few weeks.
Oh, they're coming.
Maybe he's right. Maybe the next few weeks are going to be some of the craziest we've seen.
I think so. So first of all, Phil, Nicholas on Facebook says hi. And second of all, Tim wants to know, how much do you think Verlander has left in him?
I think he has a lot left. And I wasn't sure about that. Certainly 18 months ago, even a year ago, as hard as he was pushed by Jim Leland, the number of 120-plus pitch starts that he had, he was sort of the last real workhorse that Major League Baseball has had, until the pendulum swings around and starters are going into the 8th and 9th inning again. He's sort of the last of the breed, and he didn't show that much. But I looked at a lot of information on him last July before the trade deadline, and if you looked up his velocity, how it had bounced back, if you looked up just sort of game by game, he went through a thing 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, maybe, where he had a forearm issue. And then he also had that core muscle issue that bothered him. Once he got past those physical issues, he's been fine. And, he, like a Max Scherzer, he's such a strong guy. Now this guy doesn't have a great reputation, but he had pitched a lot of really good years in his later 30s. And to me, Verlander is cut from the same build as Kevin Brown. When his run with the Dodgers, he had some really good years when he was healthy. And, I think Justin Verlander, he has 2 years left on his contract, right? So we'll see when he gets to the next free agency, how far teams trust him. But I think as far as the Astros are concerned, I totally trust that they're going to get good performance from him in 2018 and 19.
So interesting that this Astros team was interested in Gerrit Cole last summer. They got Justin Verlander instead, and now this offseason, go ahead and add Gerrit Cole. So it's going to be interesting. Defending champs only getting better. Phil Rogers, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate all the information. All right. Thanks very much, Alexa. Thanks, Dani. Take care. Dani, Phil, one of our favorites, right? One of the best.
Absolutely, he is. Really,
yeah.
Really great, full of information, and one of our favorite people to come on the show. Yeah. All right, time for Who's That Wednesday. You ready, Dani? I'm ready. All right, we're going to give some clues here, but the clues are going to be in the form of tweets. So this might be a little bit more challenging than just some stats. Okay. That we usually nail, get this pretty fast, but they're trying to stump us this time. So let's go ahead and go at it. All right. Mystery Man number one for Who's That Wednesday. Tweet number one, I still love sports. Hashtag national championship. Okay, this could literally be anyone on the face of the planet. Okay. During the championship game, he updated. He continued, I love sports and I still love sports. And then he said nothing but good thoughts for Carson Wentz. Right, okay. Carson Wentz got hurt. So I'm guessing an Eagles fan, right? Like a Mike Trout, maybe. All right. And then final tweet here. Looks like Pat Neshek had some fun on Twitter last night. Stoked to see you back in the red pinstripes and that I don't have to face you. All right, so I know who this is because of this situation. I know that Reese Hoskins number 17, was duking it out with Pat Neshek, because Pat Neshek is number 17 as well, and they played this whole joke because people who had already bought Christmas gifts with Hoskins 17 would have to return them because Pat Neshek was going to become 17 with the Phillies, but it's not the case. Neshek's going to take another number. So Rhys Hoskins.
Nicely done, Danny. All right. How about number 2?
Number 2. Here we go. First one. You do not shine under the bright lights. The bright lights simply reveal your work in the dark.
Getting philosophical on us today. All
Very
right.
deep. Number 2. Just saw a beardless Kid Keike, that would be Dallas Keuchel, on the SEC commercial during the Sugar Bowl. #weird, #sigh.
I remember seeing this tweet, and I think I remember who it's from, though. Give me the final tweet, see if I can get it.
All right, final tweet. He first tweeted this out, that 6 years ago to the day I was traded to the Rays baseball. Time flies. But then he corrected himself. 7 years ago.
Yeah.
To the Rays.
This is our man, Chris Archer, who is so amazing and philosophical on Twitter and says some of the best things. We're going to share some more of Chris Archer on Twitter later here in the show. All right, final Who's That Wednesday. Mystery Man number 3. Danny, you ready?
I think.
All right. So Joe Posnanski had tweeted that he did some writing in a coffee shop and Christmas music was playing the whole time, and it's way early. It's November 11th, and bye.
Okay.
And this person replied, I'm totally okay with this. Christmas music should start in August.
Okay.
That's tweet number 1.
All right.
Tweet number 2, he says, what a great group of guys, a great group of people helping the guys. Not a single regret should be had, but this is going to hurt for a while.
I'm very confused by this tweet.
Okay, and tweet number 3, this should help wrap it all up. Also, I'm a Brave now.
Yeah.
So let's think about this offseason, right?
Right.
With the trade that the Braves made.
Right.
They sent Matt Kemp to the Dodgers.
Right.
And the Dodgers acquired a handful of players.
Right.
Scott Kazmir, Adrian Gonzalez, and I believe Brandon McCarthy.
His wife, Brandon McCarthy. I was thinking his wife before him, Amanda McCarthy.
I think it was Brandon McCarthy. Yeah.
That was a great hint. That's the hint that I needed.
Excellent. Very nicely done.
Yeah, that was
that
great.
Wednesday. You guys are doing a great job of stumping us. So more from Twitter, by the way, that we want to share with you. This is also from Chris Archer. Like I'm telling you, this guy gets philosophical, Danny.
That's right. The grass is greener where you water it. And this is, we talked about this, one of my favorite quotes. It's said in a lot of different ways, and people think that the grass is greener on the other side. The grass is not greener on the other side, whatever it is. But the grass is green where you water it, folks.
Yeah, I mean, that's very obvious.
You make your magic.
Yeah.
So there's that moment. Okay, so our question of the day today. Our question of the day, there's so many things that my brain is like reeling right now.
Yeah.
Our question of the day, we talked about Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge being a fierce duo, hard to compete with, but we did decide that there are other tandems in baseball that can compete with them. So we asked you guys on Facebook what other tandems could compete with these guys. So let's do Tim, who said Bryant and Rizzo have their own nickname, Brizzo, and they're not too shabby themselves, winning a World Series at a very young age.
Their own souvenir company, and Phil Rogers is behind him, so I like that.
That's right. Jesus said, I think Trout and Ohtani could be one of the best future duos, and I was thinking about that as well, which is very interesting because of the Ohtani factor playing on both sides. So he is like a triple threat, not just a duo. Daniel said Puig and Turner, Yasiel Puig and Justin Turner for the Dodgers, which could be true if Puig stays with the Dodgers.
Good one.
Interesting one here. I like this. Ryan said D. Gordon and Nelson Cruz. And if you remember, the Mariners acquired D. Gordon. So he was a fish, and now he's a fisherman. And not only that, but he's also transitioning from second base to center field, which is a huge deal. He just has this offseason to learn the position. But if he can, you know, he could be a force to be reckoned with.
That's interesting. I was actually thinking about another former Marlin, Marcell Ozuna and Tommy Pham teaming up. I think the two of them could do some damage there in St. Louis.
You know, I like that. Another tandem from the Astros, Jeff said Springer and Jake Marisnick, particularly when you take in the defensive runs saved that they bring on top of the home run power.
Let's get all the stats in here.
Yeah, you guys are
super nerdy today.
Killing it.
Love
and then Jerry went old school, and he had Tony Oliva and Harmon Killebrew. So a tandem, a force to be reckoned with as well in their time with the Twins, which is awesome. Kay said, hi, Danny. Hi, Alexa. Happy belated New Year, by the way. And Tim on Facebook, our friend Tim, asked, who are the Pirates going to get in return? That's what everyone's talking about. And I wanted to mention this with you, Lex, because when I was talking to Brian McTaggart on our podcast, we talked about a name, Derek Fisher, which is being thrown around a lot right now. 24 years old, first-round draft pick from the Astros. And the question from Derek Fisher is he ready to play left field full time? That's what Brian McTaggart was wondering.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the depth chart for the Pirates, they've got Starlin Marte out there in left field. So the question now is, if they do get Derek Fisher, what happens to Marte? If McCutchen leaves, does Marte move back to center? Or, we're not sure there. So Derek Fisher could be a name, Tim, that you could be looking for. 24 years old, ready to play left field.
Yeah, I think the Astros' top prospect, Kyle Tucker, could be involved in this as well. I think that they were leaning away from their right-hander, Forrest Whiteley, because he was more of one of those protected guys that the team wanted to hold on to. So we could potentially see a couple of these guys moving, but keep it locked right here on MLB.com, and we'll give you all of the trade information as we find it out here on the show. Yeah, all right, so our final story here. Obviously, we talked to you about Jason Kipnis, how he spent his offseason hanging out with some eels down in the Caymans. Anthony Rizzo one-upped him.
Yeah, he did.
He's now the Shark Whisperer.
Shark Whisperer.
Danny?
I would be a Shark Whisperer.
Are you down to swim with sharks?
I would totally do this, 100%. Absolutely.
What if these were great whites?
If I'm in a cage, it's fine, right? That's what cages are for.
Yeah, I love it.
To protect you.
We had our honeymoon in South Africa, and we were on our way to go cage diving or shark diving. And unfortunately, the village, the road through the village where we were going was completely on fire from this forest fire, and we couldn't make it through. I know, I was so disappointed, but it's on my bucket list. It's something I've always wanted to do, so I will get to do it at some point. Maybe we can do it together. Just go ahead and throw some chum in the water, some 1225 live chum.
Why not? It's Wednesday. Anything's possible.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. All right, thanks, Danny.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching us. Like we said, breaking news here, Gerrit Cole is now a member of the Astros. Sources are saying, and this is all from JP Morosi, the MLB insider. So if you want to figure out any more about this trade, make sure you keep it locked here on MLB.com throughout the day. And there's a lot more coming where that came from. So we're going to have all of the latest right here on 1225 Live tomorrow. If you would like to join us, that would be great, and we'd love to have you. So we'll see you then, same time, same place. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Phil Rogers for joining us today.